Live.
All right. Hi, everyone. It's 7 o'clock. Welcome to this meeting of the Warren Astronomical Society. I am the president, Bob Tremblay. I didn't change that yet. And do we have any first-time attendees tonight? First-time attendees. Okay. You can join or renew your membership here or via PayPal. If anyone wants a lanyard with your name on it, get to the board, let us know here. As a tradition, we like to go through the ranks and do a roll call and let us know your name. And so I'm Bob Tremblay. Hi.
Dale King, the editor.
David Marinsky, treasurer. Lynn Wadowski, member. Dale Parton, first vice president.
John Bucker, member. Mark is here. Jeff McLeod, Alfred. Neil Holland, Paul Wolf.
Laura.
Brian Levensky. Kary,
All right. All right. Welcome, everyone, and welcome to everyone on the internet. We've got a few people on Zoom here. So for announcements, we've awarded the Paul Strong Scholarship, and it's up here on the screen. Let me share it where folks on the internet here. Okay, that's in the way, of course it is. So the Paul Strong Scholarship is something we award every year, and we choose candidates. And this young lady, Lauren Mount, was awarded $500. She's a graduate of Chippewa Valley High School, currently taking classes at Macomb Community College full-time, and she can transfer to Oakland University in winter spring 2025. She's gonna graduate with a BS in environmental engineering and a minor in finance and business. She would like to use this to have a career in consulting businesses for environmental related projects. So congratulations, Lauren. And I'm really glad that we do that with Macomb Community College. Okay. Our April 1 meeting is going to be a more of a social gathering. If you'd like to bring like a potluck, something to pass around, that would be awesome. It's not required, but we'd appreciate it. Brother Guy Consolmagno is going to be here on March 17th, Sunday, March 17th. Yeah, I talked with him because I didn't know that until last week in our meeting. I said, "Hey, you're going to be at Cranbrook." He's like, "Oh, I didn't tell you." I'm like, "No." He says, "Are you going to show up?" I'm like, "Probably." So, are there still calendars available? Yes, there are.
There are
Still calendars available for $15 with absolutely beautiful astro photos from our members. Yes.
What is brother guy gonna be talking about?
Galileo, which is what they're having here.
Is there a charge?
You know what? I don't know. I'll look that up. He's on the Cranbrook site. Is there a charge? There is. There's two talks. One is definitely has a charge, and I'm not sure if the other one is free or not, but it's not.
Not a member of what?
Cranbrook, yeah. Okay, so WASP wearables are purchasable. You can see what they look like. I still have this shared here. Share the screen again. Go back over to the newsletter, because this is really cool. Let's scroll up, scroll up, scroll up, scroll up, scroll up, scroll up. Somewhere there they are. So there's the logos you can get, and there's the price list and what the different things you can get. And we're also trying to offload some older stuff here. So if you're interested in getting into that stuff, again, let us know.
It's up there.
What?
I brought it up at the table in front.
Awesome. Okay, so they're here. If you're here in attendance, you can walk away with them tonight. So if you haven't figured out what you're going to be doing for the April 8th total solar eclipse, you should ought to do that. My wife and I have registered and are going to have a table at the National Museum for the U.S. Air Force at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base near Dayton, Ohio. It's a little off the center line, but they're having a giant event. They're expecting like 10,000 people. And they are actually looking for presenters throughout March. Every Wednesday, they would like to have presenters to talk about the eclipse and build up excitement about it. So Ken Burton called me and he wasn't able to be here tonight. He wanted me to announce that like the 2017 eclipse, he's got a fellow who has a plane. And if you're interested in chasing the eclipse in a plane, get with Ken Burton. It's a little pricey. We're talking a couple $1,000s for the 7-seater. If you can get more people, it'll be down to maybe 1,500, maybe, and a larger plane. But if you're interested in chasing the eclipse on a plane and seeing the eclipse and coming back the same day, yes.
Yeah, I could be wrong. I believe they're not observing the eclipse from the plane.
No.
They're flying down to a small field. They're gonna observe right on the tarmac and then they're flying back.
Right. So Jeff McLeod said, yeah, they're chasing the eclipse. They're landing. They're observing it, and they're flying back home. So Stargate Observatory, we have a message board. We need ideas for things in it. Jeff, is your model going to fit in that? Your Saturn?
No, not my Saturn.
Oh.
But I could print at the scale that'll fit one in there.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Feel lights. Well, I guess it's on this.
Yeah, I made sure it wasn't facing the sun. Yeah. Okay, so our annual picnic this summer is going to be our annual picnic is going to be August 24th. That is the fourth Saturday in August, which coincides with our open house. The Michigan Science, I got an email today. The Michigan Science Engineering Fair is looking for judges, and I have an email. If you're interested in judging a science fair, they want more people. So, first VP, oh boy, or president's report. I really don't have much. So I'm gonna get Dale up here. Dale, you got anything? I was working on a presentation the other day. I didn't write a president's report.
Yeah, you are the president, Bob.
Yeah.
Don't forget. So as usual, I am always looking for people to give presentations. Please see me at the break if you have even an inkling of an idea of something you might like to do. The other thing I'd like to say is the board would like to have the meeting a month from now here at Cranbrook be such that the main presentation is, there won't be a speaker, but rather we're just going to have a social time to get to know each other better. We will have a short presentation by somebody, but we just felt a need to have a time to just enjoy each other's company. So that'll be a good part of what we do a month from now here at Cranbrook, okay? Thank you.
All right, thanks, Dale. All right, our second VP and here, Riyadh Mahdi.
Yes, hello everyone. So last open house was on February 24th. We had a clear night. It was a little hazy, but it was great. We had roughly 60 people come in. The observatory was full of people. We had 4 telescopes actually set up outside also. We observed deep sky objects. We looked at Jupiter, double stars. We looked at the moon. So it was a really wonderful night to be out. It was cold, but not extremely cold. And the sky was clear from when we started at about 6:30 all the way to a little after 9 o'clock. It started to cloud up. That's when pretty much most people left. So our next open house is March 23rd. And hopefully we'll have another clear night. And if you can make it out, come on out. It should be a good event as well. And coming in the spring, so maybe the following open house in April, we would like to do a little bit of spring cleanup around the observatory. So if you'd like to help out, come on out, bring a broom with you or something. Maybe a small vacuum cleaner if you would like to help out, and we'll clean up the observatory a little bit. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Riyadh.
One thing I forgot to say, on April the 8th, I know where most of you are going to be. You're going to be along the path of totality of the eclipse. Cranbrook Cranbrook provides this place for us to meet for free, except it's not completely free. They do have events a few times a year where they ask for volunteers to come here and provide some kind of astronomy type service to the public. And that is the case on April the 8th. I'm going to forego going to the eclipse and be here with a telescope and a sun filter. But I could use some help. So if you're not going to the eclipse, please let me know. We could use some help. Thank you.
All right, and thanks a lot, Dale, for staying here. Okay, David, treasurer. David Baranski, our treasurer. What do we have in the bank?
All right, so as Bob mentioned, got calendars for sale, got a few more in the pile there. So at the end of February, we had about 25,218 in the account. Due to all the renewals coming in as of the end of February, we had 25,880 in the account. No debits at this point. All the money's still there. And that's it.
All right, thank you. And it's good, if you want to renew your membership, he's the guy. All right, Charlie, you online, what is going on with our secretary?
Hello, this is Charlie, and I don't know if you can see me or not, but
Yeah, we can.
I will say my report is brief, but I feel I'm starting to settle into the secretary's role, and I'm loving that, and I just hope to continue to bring some nice reports every month. And I want to thank you for the honor of being the secretary of the club.
All right, thank you, Charlie. All right, Jeff, outreach, what is going on?
Apparently the moon's gonna pass in front of the sun. Has anybody heard about this?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I reach,
Eat the sun.
and then we shall hurl spears at it until it lets it go. I don't know what y'all are doing, but I am packing a spear when I go. We're gonna try to be isolated out in the middle of nowhere. I want to experience this eclipse, so I went with, well, not with, but I was in Casper, Wyoming with Ken Burton for the 17 eclipse. Hundreds of people. He's counting down 1 minute, 30 seconds, 10 seconds. So like we knew what was going on, right? So we could take our equipment filters off and stuff. But now I want to do the opposite. I just want to sit in a field and then all of a sudden it's happening. So we'll see what happens. Outreach, so that I don't forget anything. Constance did a virtual presentation for an event in Houston that was like, it was way over my head. It was the use
Planetary characterization.
Planetary characterization, and her talk was the use of nomenclature in
Yeah.
astronomy
Mhm.
for outreach. So, you know, when you say millions instead of like which words do you use to convey information? I'm assuming that that's kind of,
Exactly.
yeah.
And how things are misused in astronomy and misunderstood by the public.
it happens.
She's going to be
all
giving
the
that
time.
talk here in July.
So another place that has reached out to me is the Discovery Center in Mount Clemens.
Cool.
They are a kind of startup, very local. They're trying to help, you know, kids in Macomb have somewhere to be, to experience, and they do STEM Saturdays. And wouldn't you know, the 4th Saturday of every month is their space day. So they got kids around the age of like 10, give or take, and they want speakers to talk. So I think I'm going there this month because I don't, unless someone else has something in the can and they want to jump in. But every Saturday through the year, there is an opportunity to give some sort of presentation to a group of kids out in Mount Clemens. You finish that up, it's 1 to 4. You can work with them about like, hey, I don't have, you don't need 3 hours of material. They just want a presentation. And then you head over to the observatory and you talk to Rion. That's the best way to spend a Saturday. So if you're at all interested in that, you can get with me and I can get you the information. I got Stargate listed on the Pure Michigan website, so hopefully travelers from abroad that go to that might find us. I was just we weren't on it, and I'm like, why aren't we on it? We're not a planetarium, but neither is the Lowell Observatory, so put us in with the planetariums. You already mentioned the Michigan Science and Engineering Fair. They need judges. It intimidated me. I won't be doing it. And then we've got statewide astronomy night, April 12th. So after you come back from the eclipse, that Saturday, I believe it's a Saturday, might be a Friday. Check your calendars because they have a rain contingency and it'll be the next day. So it's the 12th or the 13th, depending on the weather. This is something that Wayne State and Belle Isles Nature Center have like collaborated on, but they can always use more scopes or just go out to the event. It's an awesome event. It's really a unique, it's not the best viewing, but that's kind of what makes it unique. Like I've done it a couple of times and it's actually a lot of fun to see what can be seen from Belle Isle. And then you, more than any other place I've been, it's a group of people that have never seen this stuff. So they are blown away by the horrible views they have from Belle Isle, which is a lot of fun. It's like, I've never seen a more diluted Andromeda galaxy. It's like, it's that thing blown away. It was fantastic. All right, that's all I got for outreach.
All right, thanks, Jeff. All right, Vachaya, publications. This is gonna be easy. You don't have anything?
Nope. So Dale got the WASP online and it's updated. Thanks, Dale. That's all I have.
Thank you. All right. See, our newsletter is online. If you want to contact the board for any reason, you can contact us at board@warrenastro.org. So, some astronomy in the news. We've got 3 new solar system moons, 1 orbiting Uranus and 2 orbiting Neptune. They were spotted by researchers at the Carnegie Institution for Science. Puts the outer planets' moon counts at 28 for Uranus and 16 for Neptune. They were discovered, in some cases, over the course of a few years and required special imaging to separate them from the stellar background. So that is pretty cool. I think I first heard about that from Heidi Hamill, who was all about the ice giants. David Levy. Is David Levy online? He is not online. So we won't be getting any astro poetry. Riyadh, any double star Perseid stuff going on? Are you planning on observing anything? I've got some stuff for you in my presentation tonight too. I can't wait for you to see what I got.
Yeah, no, we did do a little bit of double star observing, and I'm still planning on more, and we're still planning on trying to get some measurements done. See if everybody's or somebody is interested in that as well.
All right, observing reports. Astro photos. Anybody have any observing reports? You see anything interesting in the sky? Online? You share any photos? Anyone?
Just one quick note. About 2 weeks ago, there was a solar spot, a sunspot that was large enough that I was able to see it with just the solar filter without any binoculars or any magnification. I don't know if anybody else saw it.
Well, since you mentioned that, let me bring up. Yeah, well, there was a picture of that on the front page. Let's see what it looks. Let's see what the sun looks like 15 minutes ago. Hey, stop it. So yeah, that big one, let me share it to the audience here. So there is, that is the sun from about 15 minutes ago, and that big thing over on the right is rotating out of view. I believe that's what's on the cover of our newsletter. So, and again, I've been getting this thing vibrating off my desk with solar flares. We had a couple X-class flares recently, as I recall. Some big suckers. So if there's no other observing reports, I'm just going to get into the presentation. Let me zoom over the big screen here. What's that? Presentation. Yep. Back over here. Yeah. All right. So there we go. Oh, yeah.
Well, if there's somebody here who shouldn't need an introduction, it's Bob Tremblay, our president, right?
I've gotten to that point now. Oh, yikes.
Your fame has preceded you. He's not only our president, but he is a NASA Jet Propulsion Labs Solar System Ambassador, a podcast host, and factotum. Tell us what that means.
Factotum is just the jack of all trades. They throw a lot of stuff at me and a lot sticks, and I do everything for them.
For the Vatican Observatory.
Yep.
And he's on the board of the Great Lakes Association of Astronomy Clubs, which just hosted the Astronomy at the Beach event. So Bob has his fingers in a lot of pies here, okay? Let's listen to what he has to tell us about asteroid occultations.
All right, thank you, Dale. All right. I was a bad boy. I was working on this presentation right up until about 2 o'clock this afternoon. So I'm going to go through some definitions first for our audience. You probably know this is probably going to be a review for a lot of people. That over there, okay. So asteroids, they're rocky, icy, metallic bodies, and remnants of the formation of the solar system, anywhere from 1 meter to several hundred kilometers, and oftentimes referred to as minor planets. Main belt asteroids, these are a bunch of asteroids that orbit between Mars and Jupiter. There's a lot of them. And just because they orbit between Mars and Jupiter doesn't mean that that's where all of their orbit is. So sometimes a lot of things come near the Earth and spend some of the time out in the asteroid belt. So yeah, their orbits are crazy. So Trojan asteroids, these are really cool. These guys belong to 2 groups. They trail and lead Jupiter at 60 degrees, and it's I call it fun with gravity. They just kind of sit there and orbit around the Lagrangian points. Very, very cool. Centaur asteroids, these guys orbit the sun between Jupiter and Neptune. They never come closer than Jupiter. And because they cross the orbits of the giant planets, sometimes they're unstable. Their orbits are unstable over the course of a long time. So what's an occultation? It's really easy. It's just when one solar system body goes in front of another body, be that a star or another solar system body. In many instances, like an asteroid occultation I'm going to be talking about, the distant object is completely hidden. The star winks out completely. So here's the geometry of it. So to us, a star is a point source, and that asteroid blocks that starlight. That shadow can be billions of miles long. I mean, we've imaged things. We've looked at things in that are trans-Neptunian objects. So these shadows are very, very long. Here's an example of the kind of map that can be generated when you know when you do all the math, which I'm not going to be going over. So this is the kind of shadow. This is where the asteroid goes. Here's a zoom up. So Gary Rawson will like this one because that one goes right by the Wien Observatory. So this is the kind of map you can generate. So in occultation, the moon can occult stars and planets. This is it occulting probably Jupiter. Here is the Jupiter, a planet occulting a star. This was a rather bright star, and this is in 1989. Here's an occultation, but no human has seen this one. This was seen by the Perseverance rover. And what we're going to be coming up, this is an occultation, but nobody calls it a total solar occultation. They look at you weird and move away slowly. So yeah, an eclipse is an occultation. So a chord in astronomy, when you have an occultation, you have this is the Mercury transit, and what you've got is first contact across third contact. You can draw a line between those two contact points, and that's called a chord. So when you observe an asteroid, and when it occults a star, you can get a chord length, and it's a direct measurement of that asteroid's size. And the chord can indicate if the asteroid may be larger than you thought it was. So this is a single observation. You over time you see when it occults and when it comes out, you record that. If you have multiple people situated along the shadow path looking at this, you can come up with a shape from the asteroid, and this just blew me away. So this is really, really cool. This is Psyche. This is the asteroid that the Psyche mission is going to, the metal asteroid. So the first attempt was in 1958, excuse me, but it turned out to be a false alarm. They were trying to observe an occultation of Juno, one of the main belt asteroid. The image here is a successful imaging of Juno, and you'll see there were several different observations there, and you could kind of get that it's round-ish, kind of egg-shaped-ish. The first successful observation of an occultation took place in 1961. That was Pallas. And here's the image is a successful one, and there were a whole lot of observations of that occultation. So in the decades since then, there are only a handful of occultations observed, because at the time, in 1980, we only knew about 9,000 asteroids, and our knowledge of stars and their positions and stuff back then wasn't nearly as good as what we have now. So today, and then this is today's asteroid count, is 1.3 million and rising. And we have the Gaia data mission, which has data for about 1.4 billion stars. And we have software that runs on PCs that can access all that data and generate those plots. And I'll be showing some of that. It's very, very cool. So here's some interesting examples. Ganymede has an atmosphere. In 1972, Ganymede occulted a star, and they found the presence of an atmosphere. But if you search your phone on Ganymede's atmosphere discovered, they talk about the Galileo probe, and thus they don't mention this. I found this in some notes. Very cool. So Brother Guy actually turned me onto this. He said, be sure you check Sky and Telescope in 1975. I'm like, he remembered that? Oh my goodness. But Eros occulted Kappa Geminorum, and it was widely publicized, and there's the map. And see, I don't have my notes up here, but I guess there were like 18 observations from the New England area for this occultation. Here is one of the things that's very valuable about this. This is an asteroid that they found a companion for. This guy, it's a double asteroid, and some of the lines here, like the yellow line going through the very middle there, that's a fail, but that's also a successful observation, because it shows you separation. So even though you didn't hit the asteroid, it's still valuable information. And so you can find double asteroids like this, and they found a lot. Here's an example of what this might look like from Space Engine. They orbit really close to each other. It's like scary. And if you were standing on top of one, looking at one, it would be like right there in front of you. It's huge. So, brother Bob Mackey, who works at the Vatican Observatory, told me he's on the Lucy mission, and he told me that several Lucy mission targets were imaged using occultation methods. And Polymele, I think is how you pronounce that. This is a Trojan asteroid, one of those ones that orbits in front of and behind Jupiter. They found a companion for it. So there it is in Space Engine. So there's Jupiter in the background, and there's a companion. So they found that guy. Cleopatra, brother guy mentioned this one, so do this one. This guy is very bizarre. It's shaped like a dog bone with a 3D tumble. So every time you take an occultation view of this, it's going to look completely different and crazy. So yeah, here it is. It's radar views in a 3D model. So yeah, that's an interesting target. I mean, it is, every time you view it, it'll be different. So this one was going to happen in 2014. This was very widely publicized, going right through New England again, and bad weather from all the way from the New England down to Bermuda. Nobody saw it at all. So, story of our lives. Excuse me. Betelgeuse was occulted like in last December, and this was pretty widely publicized too, and it was visible from the Florida Keys. Here's the occultation map. We got several reports from over in Europe. This was most anticipated occultation since that one in Regulus that nobody saw. So here's the light curve for it, and some places in Europe saw it decrease a lot. Portugal saw it disappear completely, and there's a video online of a guy from, I believe, the Keys who also saw it disappear completely. But it didn't disappear completely in some places, so they're thinking that Betelgeuse might actually be larger angular momentum size in the sky than they thought. So although this is not an asteroid occultation, I found this interesting enough to put in here. Triton occulted a rather bright star, and in the center of the occultation, which you'd expect the light curve to be down here, there's this blip. Anybody want to give a guess what caused that? Light from the star being lensed through the atmosphere of Triton. That is called a central blip. And so you can, if your object being occulted has an atmosphere, you can get that. And I haven't seen it through Pluto, but Pluto should do the same thing. So Arrokoth, this was the second target Kuiper Belt object for the New Horizons mission. And there was actually, I saw a documentary.
Let me get this.
I'm sorry. So there's a documentary on Netflix I saw about this, about a female astronomer, and it went through her misadventures of getting set up to observe this occultation. But when they saw this, they found out that there was something odd about the shape of Arrokoth, and it wasn't called Arrokoth at the time; it was called MU-69. So they thought it was a binary object, and here's some artwork of New Horizons passing by a binary object. But when New Horizons got there, it looked like that. So close, but no dice. But you could tell that there was an odd shape from the occultation. So that's very cool too. Centaur asteroid Chariklo got occulted this. Look at that star name. Yikes. It noticed these weird blips before and after the main occultation. And this was because this asteroid has rings. And this was observed by 13 observatories in 4 countries, mostly in the southern hemisphere. And so there's an artist rendition of what that asteroid might look like, but it has 2 very distinct rings. And that was imaged in 2013. In last year, the James Webb Space Telescope imaged it again, and it got the rings, and they saw definite light curve drop for those rings. So they discovered a double star. You can discover double stars by an occultation. And this star, look at that guy ID, yikes. So when this asteroid went in front of the star, it occulted twice. So that's really cool. And one I didn't put in there is, I should have put a slide in there, is a double asteroid occulting a double star. I'd like to see the light curve on that. That would be crazy. So observing these things, all right. There's a group for that, the International Occultation Timing Association, because these are observed internationally, and it's called IOTA. They have a whole bunch of resources, including an observing guide here with a whole bunch of tips and stuff. They have a list of future events, and I just took a screenshot of this. This thing is like 8 feet long. There's just a ton of stuff. And you can click on Google Map, Google Earth, and it'll bring it up in those. It's got star charts at varying different levels, so you can find out where things are. It's got an application called Occult. Now this thing, it looks rather oldish, and it is. I mean, it runs, it's Windows 7 or something like that. It runs on Windows 11 just fine. And so the amazing thing about this is the list of catalogs that I can pull from, and this JPL catalog is huge, and it had the Gaia ones too, and it lets you know if you still need to download data files. And yeah, the Gaia ones are really big. So there's a cloud-based one, which I didn't fool around with a whole lot. It's called the Watcher Cloud. It has a whole bunch of campaigns, preset campaigns, and you see there's a ton of them here. You can click on these, and it will bring up, there's the campaign, it'll show you the occultation and that kind of stuff. And so there's just a ton of ones. Now this is a Lucky Star campaign. I saw this in the application to the Occult app, so apparently it can access that as well. Occult Watcher is another app. Now this kind of alarmed me when I saw it run on Windows 98. I got this thing to work once on my system, and I could not get it to launch again. So luckily I got a screenshot from when it did come up. There it is. But I can't comment on that anymore because it did not work on my system. So to observe these things, you got to have transportation. Yeah, you gotta know where they are and when they are. That's the maps. You got to get to where they are, and you've got to have accurate timekeeping, because these things only last for a couple seconds, if that, maybe a little bit more. But you've got to have really accurate timekeeping. The ability to star hop is really key, and knowing how to read a map and go around on a map is really important. If you're gonna try to do one naked eye, these are a little more rare, but obviously it has to be with that. It has to be a magnitude that you can see. And when I generated a list, there weren't any of those. So I ran, excuse me, I ran that Occult app. Before lunch, I set up Stargate Observatory as the site and told it to look for occultations for the next year within 50 kilometers. And I had maybe 50 entries, but it took about 2.5 hours to run and go through all of the stars and asteroids. So naked eye ones, again, you got to be able to see them. If you're going to have a telescope, it doesn't necessarily need a mount or the tracking. It can help. The best way is to do video recording. The old way is that you could tie into this. Do I have it here? Yeah. There's well, okay. The old way was to audio record and use a stopwatch, and the new way is video recording with millisecond timing on it, which I would prefer to use. Here's an example of equipment. Now, I honestly don't know what some of these things do, but so some of you might. That's one example. There's a video I'll have at the end of this, and a guy talking about it. This is a PC setup for doing recording with it. And he talks about that. The IOTA, the International Occultation Observing Association, has pre-made kits that you can buy that have all these different parts that you need at varying different price levels for doing the observing. So what should you expect to see? Well, the asteroid is going to move close to the target. You may or may not see the asteroid. If you generally won't see the asteroid, you'll just see the light from the star go out. The asteroid could have a magnitude that you can see, and that's going to be a little different. There's a slim chance that the asteroid could actually be brighter than the star being occulted. That is called a low magnitude occultation. So if you're up for a challenge, do one of those. Most of them are going to be very dim. Yeah, there's the low mag drop event. Reporting the event. If even a miss is still useful, like I showed you in that double asteroid, being able to figure out the separation between them. I didn't get the hit, but it is still useful. They want those reports. So reporting them, they have an Excel sheet online that you can fill out and email, kind of old school. You can report them from within the Occult app, although I couldn't figure out how to do it because I haven't done any observations. I think what you have to do is click on an observation and say, report this, and I didn't have any to do that. So maybe next time. This is the list I got for Stargate. And so I just went and I went and I found some of the 8 magnitudes, the brighter stars and stuff. I picked one that would look pretty interesting. So there's the map it generates. It goes right through Michigan. So I said make a Google map, and you could zoom in on that and look at that. Center line goes right through Stargate. Guess what I want to do next February? So here's the video I was talking about, and this is an hour-long video given by a guy who works with IOTA, so he knows a lot more about this than I do, and he goes through a lot more of the trivia of it, but it's very, very cool. So any questions? Yes.
Okay, so for the January 20,
Yeah.
what magnitude, like how easy or hard is this gonna be? That,
Is it 9.1, 9.5 magnitude? No, magnitude 15.1. There it is. Can we do 15 at Stargate? Do I need to filter? I can filter that list for whatever we can do. So like I'll get with you. I'll generate a more realistic list.
yeah, and we can do 15. What time of day is it? Is this at 3 in the morning on a Wednesday?
1 hour 56, that's UTC, so -5 on that. So that's not terrible.
Okay.
But there's a lot more of them. I mean, that entire list. I picked one that was brighter than the others, but so there's just a.
What those lines indicate? What's the blue bar for one red?
It's just like any a solar eclipse that when you see the path, the green line is, this is the shadow of the asteroid. So the asteroid is pretty big. And the green line is the best place to see it. But again, if you want to get, a shape model of the asteroid, you want to have people all along that line and even outside the line, because if you have them outside the line, you might find the companions. So
I'm guessing blue is total, and then between blue and red.
yeah, that's like the chance gets less and less as you go out there. Yeah. And observations of the asteroid, telescopic observations can refine these and maybe even change them. So yeah, you gotta keep checking these. Anything else? Any other questions? Oh, there's tons. Yeah, it's.
So the star is
I-
the star itself is 9.5 magnitude. It's the asteroid that's 15th.
Oh, so, but yeah, we had the question about why is there a reason that most of the asteroids are between Mars and Jupiter? Well, it's all Jupiter. It's fun with gravity. There's a whole Jupiter is shepherding them and pretty much holding them there. there is there's like 3 or 4 different sets of asteroids that have different resonances based on their orbits in Jupiter and stuff like that. I could talk to you about it later. But yeah, it's Jupiter holding them there. The same reason that Jupiter's got those weird asteroids at the Lagrangian points. It's holding those asteroids for the most part between Mars and Jupiter. Well, there's been some debate about whether Jupiter is protecting us or lobbing stuff at us, depending on the way you look at it. But so again, this video is pretty cool. It's got a guy from the IOTA, and he talks about everything here, and it goes into, it's an hour-long presentation, so it goes into a lot more detail than I have. So with that, let's take our break. Let's see, what time is it? 20-minute break. That will be. Oh, thank you. Do you want to do a 20-minute break? Would be about 5 minutes after 10. Let's do 10 minutes after. So reconvene at 10 after 8. Right. Let's swap over to the left. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Me too. You can turn it off. You can turn all of them off, or maybe just.
I see.
Yeah.
But you need to be on this light mode though. Usually you'll be on the screen.
If you've got a list, I'll find.
Thing you just need to click on the button.
Cause he gave me a check, I'm gonna check it, so I'm just gonna buy it.
Um,
And then I'll find it.
You want to switch the light?
Well, we don't have to. I mean, okay,
How's it present?
I don't know. I'll check it.
Okay.
If they want to do PowerPoint, yeah, we got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you take cards? Yeah. Wait, how much is the membership? Wait. Take care of the rest.
No, they're on Google Slides, so
Okay.
I don't need that up or that. Balrog Gamer at Gmail. Might have to get on. Oh, yeah, you will. My agenda today, and I saw you guys here. Oh my God, you emailed Dale back you guys to come, bro. Yeah, we kept talking to ourselves, we're like, who invited us to this originally? Like, do you guys remember? Yeah, we have to go back and we're like, how did we get rid of this? We're excited to be. Yes. Okay, what was it one more time? Mark Kezier is here, and he is right there. The guy with the gray hair. The guy with the gray hair. Alright. And I got the two screens here, so I have to keep Zoom over here and you can have the presentation over there.
Yeah, we're mostly gonna talk. With a little backup.
And I got a mouse on there to record. We're all set.
Can I pull up like Google Maps?
Oh, sure.
Like that, is that all right?
Earth or maps?
Sorry?
Earth or maps?
No, it doesn't matter. I just want to show if anybody wants.
Where we're at, how far we are.
I assume you're the only one that's actually been up there.
Yes,
This week,
yeah, yeah. Look at that, it's even there. There it is. I don't care.
You're gonna have to lean in for the microphone. Yeah.
Well, then, we're gonna be, that group of friends out there, we always meet like third, we can't meet again in July. So I don't know if you guys are planning on doing it.
We'll be up there. There's definitely have people there for sure. Yeah, that whole month of July is probably pretty.
Busy getting, trying to get a lot of work done this summer while we can, so.
That we're gonna talk about.
We'll mention that. We're gonna go through the whole history.
Here's our,
Guys.
we weren't really sure what to talk about.
So we're doing everything.
So we're kind of just doing like.
No, that's fine.
Oh, yeah.
That's great. No one let people know that's up there.
Okay.
The skies are like.
I wish we had some more professionals.
Some of those turned out pretty good.
Invite them.
We would love
We got
that.
Adrian, he goes to cars, okay. Just add another 5.
Yeah.
There's some rolls on the way, there's always that.
Although I think they closed it.
One, Hilltop and Houghton?
I thought.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Oh, I don't know.
I think this last summer. Maybe the summer. They said they were going to.
I don't actually know, have you seen, does Dale Select done any work on the site that he's doing?
He's definitely up there a bunch, but boy, is he secretive about what he's doing over there too.
I think they're just kind of having fun over there.
Yeah.
You know, a little bit at a time.
Probably.
Like, it sounds like he has quite a bit of solar power. Yes,
Wish we had more.
we're trying to catch up with that.
That's all. I don't know, anything you'd recommend adding to this? We can talk forever.
We're talking about, you're gonna talk about the grant.
Yeah.
Okay, talk about that, just, how you found the site. And the auction or whatever it is, how you got it, what your plans on doing with it, you're gonna be hosting public star parties and that kind of thing. We ask your photography fest up there and do cool, so yeah, invite them up there. I went to Michigan. I was up there for 7 years, 5 years, 7 years, 5 years. I love it up there. And it astounds me that there's no astronomy club up there at the university.
Technically, have one.
They have a small school.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the people off Mountain are starting to do astrophotograhy.
One we're gonna mention is the Gratiot Lake Conservancy, just a little small conservancy group off the lake, but they have connections at Tech, and they got one professor sitting up there with their telescope and stuff too, so there's groups up there, it's just, I think it gets smaller than it slowly grows.
Could be big.
Yeah.
Could be a lot.
Oddly enough, there's a shop on 41. I think it's near where the fourth thing is on the side of the road.
Oh, yeah, yep.
I think it's near there. It's It's an old site with a shop. And it's like a rock shop. But when they're talking to the guy, I had my award mention out. We got to talking about telescopes. He and his buddies get together and they show some like, yeah, you award, how come I never heard about you guys?
Are they part of any group or is it just a bunch of, that's cool.
Guys, no,
That's
these
so
guys-
cool.
These guys my age, and they meet
That's cool.
out near Lance area. There are people up there. But
It's not fun, that's for sure.
guys are just amazing. Yeah. Weirdest things. Driving in the dark. How the side of the road and the trees, fuck your head right up.
Yeah, it's so, especially in the winters, so I love it.
Weird.
Yeah, I only drive up there, back and forth. I go up there like once a month. And always at night. And it's so peaceful.
And my wife, we have a friend named Calumet, not far from the site, and it takes time to get there and all the time. Talking to her all the time. We've been making a habit of going up there, like twice a year.
That's pretty good from down here.
What, 9 hours probably? 9, 10 hours?
But we always stop at the, we stop in the Calumet or on the way up there. We have
The big spring room.
which is really cool. And, we don't. Any.
Yeah.
It's still, yeah, really. You could pick something different every trip and it'd be something.
But yeah, I think in astrophotography.
The hardest thing, when we did the one stargazer, it was the person.
Yes, they're the meteor shower. It's very unpredictable because we are on the mountaintop, so we get a little bit different than people.
And Lake Superior.
Yeah.
It's just storm clouds and everything.
It was really weird. I noticed that, we were in Calumet going up to the site, and it was cloudy in Calumet. We got on top of the mountain.
You're above it, then.
Wow, that's weird.
Well, like, that first snowstorm we had this year,
Yeah.
the entire mountaintop was buried in snow, and as soon as you got to the bottom of the mountain, it's nothing, there's no sign of it anywhere. So, we were the only spot with the first storm.
So yeah, this is my team.
This is cool.
I discovered them in 2011. I knew about them for about 10 years before that, and just never got the company to come here. And 2011, my first meeting, and I think I just wanted to. And year two, they sucked me into the board, and I've been on the board ever since then. And very, so,
I know how that goes.
You mentioned that missing science and engineering fair.
yes,
You need judges for that.
pardon me, they need judges for that, yes.
I could, you can like,
I have information. I will go through the guy's email before we leave. Get with me before we leave.
oh, all right.
I've got his email. Actually, I can just give it to you right now. Here, what am I doing? I don't need to wait. My agenda. Here it is. Michael Durbin. Mike Durbin Senior. Yahoo.com. Everything else. Michigan Science and Engineering.
There's a couple ones that are about.
You have to contact him. I got an email. You can go to the form.
This right here, scratch that out.
instructions below is, my goodness. Looking forward to this because there's a lot here.
I don't know.
Forward. Two, what's your email?
Number two.
Stop, please. Don't don't make this straightforward. Because I never do. Yes, yeah. So, yes, as to what? I don't know.
All right, there you go.
Okay, thanks.
All righty. Yeah, I got this today, so I'm sure he would appreciate it as soon as possible.
All right.
Cool. This is the guy who judges for the science fair.
That would be fun.
My wife and I were guests of honor at the science fiction convention about 3 years before COVID. Right before COVID, and they guests of honor was in Cincinnati, I think it was. There was a giant science fair, and the science guests of honor for this convention were kind of obligated to be judges for this, and it was in a gigantic auditorium, and there were so many. They're all high school kids. Some of these kids had no idea what they were doing. Some of these kids had been interning with real scientists, and their displays were like, oh my God, are you kidding me? So I was like, I saw so many smart kids there. It was just amazing. That's cool, though.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I'm gonna forward the email to you. You want to be a judge?
Where is it?
Around here, let's see. Michigan Science and Engineering Fair, which is where? 100 students. They only have 50% of the judges they need. April 6th at LTU.
Lawrence Tech?
Yes, yeah.
That's the week after.
Yeah.
Saturday.
We I'll tell you what, I'll forward this to you, and what's your email? And you sent me something.
You can do my personal.
Yeah.
Garner, Zagar.
And
ZA at Gmail. How about you got wrote through the sentence? That would be kind of cool. If I was close, I would.
Garner, here we go. All right. Battery's running low. My battery's running low. This not on?
I'm very hard of hearing. So this is a wireless mic that streams right into my hearing aids.
Okay.
So either that way or flip it,
Okay.
whichever you please.
Testing, testing. Can the internet hear me? Charlie, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Check.
Oh, it's not coming out again. Well, you guys. I hate it when the speaker does this. Actually, we don't need to hear them.
I heard
Yeah.
all the stuff about the
So,
occupations.
presentation. Is that slideshow? That. There's screen. That. That's you. And ready to go.
Okay. So the presentation is ready to go?
Yep.
Okay. We need to turn down the lights up here.
You can leave them up.
You can leave them up? It's gonna be dark enough on the screen? I think we ought to cut them a little.
Okay. That's true.
A little more. Yeah, how do you make it stay put? It's all or nothing. See, if you try to stop it, it just takes it back down again. It'll have to do.
We'll work out more.
Okay, for our main presentation tonight, we have two speakers. Zach Garner, president of a company called Open Skies, also secretary and researcher, Calumet Air Force Station Heritage Museum, and Kary, vice president of the company called Open Skies, and president and researcher, Calumet Air Force Station Heritage Museum. This is not your typical presentation, right? But I think it's going to be real interesting. The topic is the Open Skies project at the Calumet Air Force Station. Gentlemen.
Thank you.
Dan, are those my notes underneath this?
Sorry.
Thank you. No? No.
Yeah, this is, yeah, we're good.
Here's some more.
Yes. I could wing it, but it's nice to have reference. All right, well, thank you. Like Dale said, this is probably not going to be a typical presentation that you're used to. And I'm honestly not really entirely sure how to start because it's kind of a broad topic and we're going to go talk about a few different things. But I guess I'll start at the beginning of our journey with this, and then we'll kind of go back in time a little bit and talk about the history. So our group, we're calling ourselves the Open Skies Project, a group of family and friends that 3 years ago now, almost in summer of 2021, we did something. We bought an old abandoned Air Force station, basically sight unseen. We knew a little bit about it at the time, and we thought, hey, there might be some cool potential up here. And this site we had been familiar with. It's up in the Keweenaw Peninsula. I'll show you on a map if you're unfamiliar with the locations. Maybe I'll show you on a map. I think this computer is frozen. Oh, the keyboard's locked. All right, well, you guys know where the Keweenaw Peninsula is, right?
I mean, no problem.
There's the Keweenaw Peninsula, right way up there. The very tippy top of Michigan. If you know where Copper Harbor is, this is about 20 minutes away from Copper Harbor. And our group has quite a lot of ties to Michigan Tech. About half of us went to Michigan Tech and graduated from there. And this is it's not anymore, but this was a very popular trespassing place. Kind of a rite of passage for people up there to go up to this facility, which has been abandoned since 2004, and go up and kick in doors and shatter windows and graffiti and you know what college kids do. So that maybe was kind of how we also found out about it, with less of the vandalism part. It is a very cool place. It's a very unique place. It was an Air Force station that was built back in the 1950s for basically watching the skies for Soviet bombers coming over the Arctic Circle. It was one of the first built. It was one of the last closed. And it was actually repurposed in the late 90s. It was turned into a reform school for troubled youth, most of which actually came from Wayne County. I'm sure that was quite a shock to go from Wayne County to the tip of the Keweenaw, which, if you're not familiar with the climate up there, one of the snowiest places probably in the entire country. The buildings up there regularly are up to the rooftops with snow. Not this year, sadly. There's been almost no snow up there. I think we might break a record for maybe one of the least amounts since they started recording. I guess we'll see. They did, yes, yeah. So Michigan Tech does a winter carnival every year where they do big snow statues and sculptures, and I'm sure you've seen pictures of those. And yeah, this year they had to call up the ski resort and say, "We need snow. Can you guys make us some snow?" Unheard of. It just never happens. It's just been such a warm season this year. But anyways, like I said, this was a very popular trespass site, and that is how we found out about it. And back probably about 9 years ago, a handful of us in this group, we were up there at this property, and we were on top of one of the more prominent buildings. So this is a radar station. There are 76 buildings up there, and it is situated on the top of a mountain. And yes, we do have mountains in Michigan. They're not like what you would see out in the Rockies or out in the Appalachians, but we do have mountains. This particular one is called Mount Horace Greeley, named after the prominent journalist from the Civil War era, who interestingly owned stock in one of the copper mines up there and visited twice. And I guess that was enough for them to name an entire mountain after him in the early 1900s. So that's pretty cool for him. But anyways, yeah. So it's on top of a mountain. Great place for a radar station. There's quite a few buildings at the very top, and that's where we were exploring at the time. And we kind of said, jokingly to each other, we were like, "Hey, if this place ever goes up for sale, we got to try and buy this." You know how everybody says it, everybody's got a dream like that, right? Well, the opportunity presented itself 3 years ago, and we're like, shoot, we got to try, right? We said that we were going to. Well, needless to say, we pulled our money, the little bit that we had, did not expect to win the auction. We expected a developer to walk in and swoop this place up. As you can see, can I go back? I can't go back in. Oh, here we go. Let's do this. So as you can see, this is kind of an overview of the site. Wait, actually, oh, right, here we go. All right, so here's kind of an overview of the site, and this was back in the 80s, I believe, before it closed. So you can see that there's a lot here. And we were up here over on this little tower, doesn't have the dome anymore, looking out over the vast Keweenaw Peninsula. You can see forever up there. I believe we clocked it at 40 miles to the horizon, which is just remarkable. I mean, we could see lighthouses that were literally 40 miles away out in the middle of Lake Superior. You can see Isle Royale very clearly from the top on a clear day. It is high enough up compared to the surrounding terrain that clouds can be an issue, and they typically roll through there all the time. It gets very foggy until you go down the driveway and you're back on the main road, and now you're back to normal. Anyways, yeah. So we put in a bid on this place, and like I said, did not expect to win it, and got a call the next day from the county saying, "Congratulations, you won." We're like, "Woo, this is great." Oh crap. This may have been a big mistake. Like, we don't know what we're doing. We're not developers. We don't know anything about buildings. And, none of us lived up there at that point. We had all graduated, moved on, lived, all over mostly Michigan. Kyle's the only one that doesn't live in Michigan currently. But we did it. We won it. So we're like, this is sweet. Started making a plan. And we spent the next 2 years, realistically, almost up to present, learning what was up there. Just mapping everything, going through every single building, just documenting everything that we could, talking to anybody that we could about what was up there, what used to be up there, what still is, what certain buildings were for. And a big portion of that was also the historical side. And what we did not realize when we purchased this was just how fascinating the history was of Cold War radar, and this big piece of the Air Force that is generally not talked about. When most people think Air Force, they think airplanes, and that's kind of it. But there's so much more to it, and this is one of those big pieces. So I will come back to kind of what our plans are and stuff like that with the property, but I do want to talk about the history now and kind of give you guys a glimpse into the past about what that looked like using this as the context. Cal, you want to take over for a bit? Okay.
All right, let's jump ahead. So as Zach mentioned, this was one of the earliest radar sites that the Air Force set up for monitoring for Soviet bombers coming across. The most direct path if the Soviet Union was ever to go to war with the United States was across the Arctic Circle. So they built a line of these all across the northern United States. They were early warning radar sites, but they were also aircraft direction centers. So if there was fighters set up to go intercept a bomber, they would direct them from here, or they would pass the data on to an actual direction center and direct them from there. This tower here in one of the picture is the height finder radar. So they had two radars on the site. It was a search radar, which would just tell you the coordinates of where it was at, and then the height finder to tell you the altitude of the jet. And basically, the idea was they would track the bombers as they were coming in, and they would send up the fighters from either K.I. Sawyer up in Marquette, Kincheloe or Kinross Air Force Base over by the Sioux Locks, Duluth Air Force Base in Minnesota. And this was the first line of defense they were to come across. The station opened in 1951. It was all manually done at the time. There was no computers. They would track on a big plotting board. They would track the aircraft as they were detected. They would pass that data by phone to Selfridge Air Force Base, where they would also track it from there. And then from there, they would actually direct the fighter. They would order an intercept, send the fighters up to go after the Russians. Of course, that never happened. There was never any intrusions this far where there was any threats. I believe there was only a few cases where they detected aircraft they weren't sure about and would send up the fighters to go to see what it was. Picture. So it started out as a fairly small installation. They had a few barracks buildings. The direction center at the top of the hill, the operations building. They expanded over the years pretty quickly through the 50s and early 60s. They put in the housing, as you can see all the base housing on the side here. There are 36 houses on the property. There was actually another 10 up there that have now since been removed. They had 4 barracks buildings. They had a bowling alley in the rec center. They had a softball field. They had racquetball courts even at one point, tennis court.
It was basically a city within itself up here because the nearest town of Calumet was at least 20 miles away or 20 minutes away by car, worse in the winter. So they needed to provide everything that the people needed that were living up here, including they had a store, a commissary, dining facilities. You could live on base with your family. So a lot of people that lived up here, they would bring their family with them and they would live in the house. They'd have kids up here. It was pretty much a self-contained city at one point. There were 5 different radar towers. Throughout the years, they changed them as they upgraded them several different times. The 2 that you see in this picture are the only 2 that are still standing today. We own the far back one. The front one is actually owned by the county, so they kept that one because it has a cell tower on top of it. Yes. We own 100 acres of land. All of the buildings you see here, except for the one cell tower, the radar tower in the center there. And there's a small patch you can't see off to the right side where there's a few antenna towers over there that we don't own, but we own the rest. We do not live up there yet. So when the place closed down and was abandoned, and all the vandals came in, there was a lot of scrappers that came in, took out anything that was useful as far as infrastructure, power lines, anything they could basically. So it's in pretty rough shape. When we first got up there, I believe we counted 5 windows on the entire property that weren't broken. So out of 700 windows, which that's pretty significant. That is Gratiot Lake. It is mostly privately owned all around it, but there's one public boat launch, and I've heard there's really good fishing out there. But I have not been out on the lake yet myself. So the entire property with all the taxes and fees and stuff, it came out to about $250,000 total for 100 acres of land and 76 buildings. The county, Keweenaw County owned it before us. So it passed from the Air Force to the county, and then the county worked with a private group that opened the correctional facility that was there. And they kind of went bust, and the company that ran the correctional facility shut down mostly. County took it back over and did nothing with it. They just held onto the land for another 20 years after that, and they put their cell tower up there and just let it sit otherwise. The sheriff would drive by occasionally and try to catch trespassers, but they didn't put a lot of effort into stopping that. So that's why it was in such rough shape when we got it. There is actually, they have power come up the hill. It goes to the cell tower, to the building up in the top right corner, which was their original power generator building. It's just empty right now. And then we have it running down to one of the, next to the barracks, there's a motor pool building there. We're kind of using that as our operations center because we get started up there. So we have limited power, but we do. No, it is, who's that? That's the power company. Oh, UPCO, Upper Peninsula Power Company. So, nope, they reused all of the existing buildings. They didn't build anything new. They remodeled some of the barracks buildings, took them from the Air Force style to a more prison-like style, kind of, with communal showers and a lot of kids crammed into the bunk rooms in there. It was 12 to 20, I think. I think so. It was, yeah, something like that, 12 to 21. So youth offenders, but all the way through adults at that point too. Sending them to Siberia. Yes. And we've heard some interesting stories about that, and we've actually found some newspaper clippings. And it was exactly what you expect. These kids would be given an option of you're either going to prison or you're going to go up here into the wilderness. And some did try to escape, and they didn't get very far because there's literally nowhere to go for a really long time. They would tell them that you know, if they tried to run away in the winter, that they would have to watch out for snow snakes. You know, they'd get eaten by the snow snakes. And we've heard really mixed stories. Some people said that some of the kids that were up there said that it turned their lives around, which, you know, would have been the intent. Others have said it was the worst thing that they've ever experienced. We heard that there were riots, kids jumping out the second floor windows to get away from stuff. And yeah, it's definitely what it sounds like. It was a mixed bag. And it didn't last very long. It opened in 97, I believe, and closed in 2004. Which is really a shame. They put a lot of money into this facility in the late 90s to prepare for this reform school, basically. They spent millions of dollars upgrading the water and the sewer infrastructure, all that infrastructure still exists, minus a few key things like pumps and all the stuff that would make it work. But the pipe work is still there. The lagoons are still there. And everything is still connected, everything pressure tests.
nope, there was still a lot of civilian contractors there as well. At peak, I think there was at least 300 Air Force personnel.
Yeah.
I don't know the number for the civilians.
It seemed like it was about 1-to-1, civilian workers to Air Force, based on the people we've talked to, although that would most of the people we've talked to have been kind of in the later. We've only found a handful of people that were there in the 50s and in the 60s, but the 70s and 80s, it was about 1-to-1. That is a great question. We're not really sure.
I believe,
No. At least not in our deed, no.
I believe something referenced the Calumet and Hecla Mining Company, which I don't believe exists anymore, but I believe there was some mention of that in the deed, so.
They were the original owners of this property back in the late 40s. And we've been doing a lot of research on the deed. It's interesting because we know they started construction on this facility in the 50s. But
4950.
But they didn't buy the property until 58, the US federal government. So we think they just kind of walked in and said, this is ours now, get out of the way. And then they figured out the legal stuff down the road. It's very interesting, and we're still chasing that rabbit hole. And then interestingly, after the Air Force turned it over, there was a interesting, sorry.
No, you're good.
Didn't mean to butt in.
Nope, you're good.
After the Air Force closed this facility in 88, some kind of venture company got control, and a mysterious 40 acres of property appeared with this, and that is still there when we bought it. We're not sure how that happened either, because we know it was never part of the Air Force installation. So yeah, there's definitely some rabbit holes that we've been going down with the property itself. It's very dark, and we've got some pictures in a little bit, I think.
Yes.
That show the only light pollution is from Calumet, Houghton, and Hancock, which are pretty far away and very small cities. They're not anything huge. And the light pollution only happens when there's a lot of moisture in there, when there's a lot of like low hanging fog or clouds. Other than that, this is in the middle of Lake Superior. I mean, the Keweenaw literally goes boom right up into the middle of Lake Superior. So there's nothing all around except for the lake. And it has made for some of the best stargazing I've ever experienced. Northern lights like crazy. When they're popping, it's just night after night after night. We've got some pictures of that as well. I guess we can maybe go to those. Since we're talking about it, we'll come back to that. I know you guys are probably used to a much better photography. These were just taken with our cell phones. This one was mine, a 3-year-old cell phone. But this is not one of those super crazy, 300-second exposure, like none of that. This is just normal, like what you would see with your eyes. This was last summer, I believe. I think this was last winter.
Winter? There's no snow on the ground.
Snow, you're right.
Here, so.
It seems like winter is a much better time to see the northern lights. Oh man, we've got a lot more pictures too, but we didn't want to throw them all in here. But you can also see this was the blood moon last summer, I think, over Lake Superior. There's a really cool picture. Oh, we didn't put it in here, did we? Which one? Oh, the one where it reflects off of Lake Superior. Maybe we'll find it later.
All right.
Really crazy cloud formations up here on the top of the mountain. You can see the cell tower sitting on one of the old radar towers there in the background. And this is once again just taken with my cell phone. You can see the Milky Way with the naked eye. Super easy. Super easy. And yeah, just another shot of the top of the mountain there. You can see there's nothing around. This is literally plopped in the middle of nowhere. It's crazy. A lot of the people that live up there and have lived up there their whole lives don't know about it, or maybe they've heard of it, but don't know the true scale of the site. But a lot of them, when we first opened up the facility to the public, we started doing tours basically because we were trying to cut down on the vandalism by saying, okay, look, stop coming up here, except for, we'll walk you around, we'll do things. Because the site was in a world of hurt. There was a lot of debris everywhere, lots of shattered glass. And so we started doing these tours where we'd walk people around and we'd give them our interpretive history of what we had learned and stuff like that. And I don't remember where I was going with that. Sorry. Yeah. So it's the local county sheriff, and they have been very awesome to work with. I think they probably see us as out of towners a little bit, probably a lot. and are like, quit calling us, because one of the first things we did was invest a lot in a security system, because we knew this site is super heavily trespassed. And now that it's not owned by a municipality or public government, that's just right for somebody going in, cutting their leg on something and suing us for it. So we put up cameras, and we would call the sheriff if there was people up there. We put sirens up there that we could remotely trigger. And we've continued to add stuff to really discourage trespassing. It's gotten a lot better now. I think the word's gotten out. But people are still pretty nefarious. We had some people come up on a Christmas night, this most recent Christmas. It was super dark. It was foggy. You couldn't see them on the cameras, and we didn't catch them till like an hour after they were up there. But unfortunately, the sheriff is a minimum of 20 minutes away. And frequently, you know, if they're out on a call or something, there might be 2 of them in the whole county. This is one of the least populated counties in the entire state of Michigan. There's only 2,000 permanent residents in the whole entire county. And that includes Isle Royal. But I don't, sorry.
A lot of,
it's mostly, what we found was it was mostly college kids from Michigan Tech and Northern,
Remind me, 15
and
minutes
high school
goes
students.
outside.
They would go out there and they'd mess around, and I don't know what their parents were. I don't know if their parents knew where they were going or what they were doing, but that seems to be what it mostly is now, actually, is high school and college. And I think it was a what lake?
Yeah.
A kettle lake?
oh, yeah.
Oh, no, everything up there is from the glaciers. Yeah, everything. In fact, we've been told that this is some of the oldest exposed land, rock, in the entire world, based on just the local geology of the Keweenaw. And that's a whole rabbit hole. But Gratiot Lake, I'm not sure. I'm sure.
I'm not sure, yeah. Yes.
Yes, I actually saw a mama bear and a cub not last time, but over the summer, cross the road right in front of me, right next to the base. And I've got like a dog that I'm letting run around up there. And I'm like, ooh, maybe I should rethink this decision.
There were tracks up there in the latest snow we had. There were bear tracks right at the edge of the property.
Yeah. Yeah. I just saw a cougar last time I was up there. The only thing I have not seen, we caught wolves on our camera once. And we weren't actually sure if they were wolves or coyotes, but the locals up there told us very quickly that they were wolves. Yeah, haven't seen any moose.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it stretches in every direction too. I don't think we have any other satellite or drone pictures in here, but it's
Yeah, that's actually a power line easement. So that power line runs for 17 miles to Calumet, I think.
something like that.
And they put that in just for this base. And in fact, this facility is one of the only reasons that Gratiot Lake. I got too many pictures. Did I piss? Did I mess?
We got the.
All right, well, you can see it. Here's a cool picture of the mountain range, kind of, but that lake on the right, that's Gratiot Lake. And back when this facility was built, those were mostly just like summer cabins. You could not get down there. It was all dirt roads. And because this facility was built, they finally ran power down there, because that's where the pumps are. The mountain, there's no groundwater on the top of the mountain, so they ended up running a pipe 2 miles down the mountain, straight shot down to the lake, and put in 2 massive wells. They used dynamite to blast it all out and all sorts of crazy stuff. But that was how the infrastructure got brought up there, because there was nothing at the time. There's a couple mountains past this in this picture. One of those, I don't know if I can zoom in, probably not. This mountain right here, that's Mount Bohemia. I don't know if any of you are skiers. One of the more prominent ski hills in Michigan, and it's all black diamond. Like, there's no noob friendly skiing on this mountain, I guess. I'm not a skier, so I don't really know much about it, but this is basically, there's a range of mountains right here. And ours is one of them. Bohemia is probably the other most prominent one. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Brockway Mountain. That's up by Copper Harbor. That's actually not part of the same chain. It's part of the one, just the next chain to the north. You can actually see it in this picture, but it's really far back there. It's like up here. 1,540 feet above sea level. 1,540 feet. Yep. It's the, ooh, I'm gonna mess up.
No, we got it.
Oh, did I put it in there?
Yes. Nope.
25th highest mountain in Michigan. And First in the Keweenaw. Woo! It's the third most prominent, which I didn't know. That's pretty cool. It does really just have a crazy, crazy sharp drop off. So, yeah, so what we're gonna do with it. So, we've done a lot of research over the past few years. We actually were just awarded a grant by the state of Michigan. The state Land Bank Authority gave us a blight elimination grant. It's actually an interesting story. So they had this whole grant process and they allocated funds by county. Well, nobody else in Keweenaw County applied for this because there's nobody else in Keweenaw County. And so it was kind of an easy one for us to get, and we're very grateful for it. But basically that was a $200,000 grant. And everything that you see in this picture is now boarded up. All of the windows are covered, all of the debris has been cleared out, all of the brush has been cut and pushed back. It's a mowed site now. And our goal with this grant basically was to secure everything, prevent the few major things that were at risk of collapse from getting any worse and fixing those problems, and making it so that the site can actually be reutilized. So we are in the process. Sorry? No, they're all block. The houses are wood, but everything else is block. And honestly, they stood up pretty well to the elements, despite the maintenance. Sorry? When they opened, they actually had, if you see this building right here, this was the furnace building. Actually, I'm going to go back to that one because it should show, oh, you can't see the stake. We're right next to it. All right, well, this building right here, this was their furnace building. When they first built this facility, they did overhead steam pipes to all of the buildings, and they heated everything with steam. And they would generate the steam using coal. Eventually, they upgraded to using fuel oil. Fortunately, all of that stuff has been removed, thank God. There was quite a lot of contamination from that. When the academy came in, they did switch to propane. And honestly, that's probably what we're going to have to use because the nearest natural gas pipeline is, I don't even know. Back in Calumet. It's not anywhere close. I know that. But at the same time, we've got kind of a fresh start up here, right? So we've got the buildings, we've got some infrastructure, but this really represents a unique, it's a unique thing. So we can start over. So if we want to do all geothermal in these buildings, we're sitting on all bedrock beneath us. I mean, like this is an entire mountain. We've got power to the facility, but there's a lot of solar potential, despite being at such a northern latitude that there's no sun in the winter. I think, man, it's bad. It's bad. I know it's not like Alaska bad, but it's pretty bad up there. You would be surprised that Michigan has such a northern latitude that you would even be able to notice, but it is noticeable. However, when the sun shines, it does shine. There's a lot of wind, obviously being on the top of the hill. So lots of potential for alternative energy. And one of the really cool things is there's no lights left. So it's completely pitch black. And one of our big focuses as we redevelop the site is to keep it that way and not have mercury relays all over the place and not have just outdoor floods everywhere. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how bad light pollution is. I mean, I come back down here from up there and I'm just like, holy crap, you can't see anything. I don't know how you guys do it here, to be honest. How do you see anything up there? You go up there and you're like, oh, I can see that light on 20 miles away. Turn that thing off, you know? There's a prison down in Baraga, which is kind of like at the nook of the Keweenaw, and that thing is a beacon. It's not really light pollution, but if you're looking like down at the horizon, you can definitely see it. Yeah. I think that's just an air handler. Yep. That was originally a chapel, if you can believe it. It's supposed to be a wood exterior. It's not anymore. It's honestly one of the worst conditioned buildings on the property, which is actually, to me, it's pretty good. That is the one building we might have to tear down. But we might tear it down and rebuild it back as it was. They turned it into, I don't know what the Air Force used it for after the chat.
Storage.
I think it was
something
storage.
like that.
But then the Academy turned it into a wood shop. And that is the cell tower. Yeah, from the big tower. So this cell tower right here is casting that shadow this way. Right now, there's almost nothing. Oh,
That's up to the roof of the admin building right down there, so.
I'd say that's probably 6 or 7 feet deep.
Last winter, I think it was, or the first winter, we had 220 some inches of snow, I think.
That must have been last winter, because the first winter was like over 400, I think.
Was it? Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was, sorry.
Yeah. And that's the measurements, not on the mountain. That's like the county measurements. We need to get them a snow gauge up top because it is a lot more than whatever their official stuff is. It will drift over like that. We found pictures of some of the original snow removal equipment that they had, and they went all out. We're talking like the biggest trucks that they could buy. We're talking like 50 stage snow blowers that would chuck this stuff forever. And they would dump it off the side of the mountain just to get rid of it. It was a constant battle up there. Yeah, this year has been kind of depressing for the snow and the local economy included, because that's huge up there. Snowmobiling, snowshoeing, skiing, it's a huge thing up there. Yes, well, did NORAD exist?
Pre-NORAD.
It was pre-NORAD. It was all part of the same big thing. So if we go back, it was part of in the 60s and the 70s, it was part of the SAGE system, which was the system. It was the big thing. SAGE, no, NORAD came after SAGE for sure. What is the JSS, I think, came
That's the
after.
current one, right?
That's the current one, came after SAGE. And they rolled these stations out like crazy. So basically, after World War II ended, radar was in this very like rudimentary phase. It was used a lot over in the UK during the end of World War II, and it was a very what do I want to say? Like
Early technology.
it was early, but it really showed promise. Yeah. And the US military at the time, this was before the Air Force was their own branch. They started looking at, okay, we see this growing possibility that Soviet Union might become a thorn in our side. And as the 40s progressed, the late 40s, it got more and more important. They kept pushing for it, but Congress refused to fund any kind of domestic radar. The Air Force became their own branch of the military in 1947. And the Soviet Union dropped their first nuke in, I believe, 49. And it was about that time that Congress started funding these things and went, oh, okay, yeah, this is a real threat now. The Soviets have nukes. And they spawned these things so insanely fast. I mean, this map is from 58. And there are hundreds of these. This doesn't even show what's in Canada. It does show some offshore ones. But in under a decade, they had so many of these things running. Of course, at the end of that decade, at the end of the 50s, they would turn around and they'd remodel everything. The technology had progressed. They had new radar that could go farther and have higher resolution and all that stuff. So I would say the early 60s is when stuff really started taking shape as far as like this big conglomerate system. And if you're interested in the technology behind this, it's absolutely fascinating. Look up the SAGE system. This allowed the US in the early 60s to have effectively what we would imagine today. So you could be sitting at any of these major direction centers anywhere in the country, and you'd be able to see the data from any of these remote outposts, wherever they were. This particular air defense sector that we were in, not on this map, well, maybe on this map, at least in the 50s, they actually reported to a direction center in Willow Run Airport, which is now controlled by University of Michigan. But that was where all of the decisions were made. And they could also control the fighter jets in the early 60s and beyond with this. They could remotely arm and deploy weaponry, missiles in the early 60s. Honestly, it blows my mind because I would not ever consider or think that we would have had that kind of remote control capabilities that far ago. I'm sure that a lot of the technology they developed through this system specifically has directly impacted a lot of technologies that we use today. And that system lasted quite a while. I don't know when the JSS took over. I think it was in the mid 80s. A lot of that old tech, the SAGE stuff, it ran on vacuum tubes, and it was really designed for an era of bombers, so they could track bombers, and then ICBMs came along, and that was problematic because ICBMs just moved way too fast. They couldn't intercept an ICBM, and, you know, they realized how much early warning do we need for an ICBM, you know? And as they built, or they closed a lot of these radar stations, they didn't need that many. Technology had improved. Oh, I had a really good thing I was going to talk about. Dang it. They did not. No, there was apparently that's the difference between an Air Force station and an Air Force base, I think. For the most, that's what we've been told. So most of these stations didn't have landing strips. They would drive up, which was super unfortunate for the people stationed up there. K.I. Sawyer is the closest Air Force base, but that didn't even open as an Air Force base until after this facility was open. Yeah. Okay. Just so I. Oh, sorry. Yeah,
No,
I'm talking.
you're good. So I guess I really want to quickly cover what our plans are for this. I don't know if we even touched on that yet. One of the biggest things is we want to preserve the history of this site. Yes, sorry about that. Yeah, so one of our plans, we really want to preserve the history of the site. We have established a nonprofit that will run the museum we're going to open up there. I scroll ahead to this picture. The plan right now is to take the entire top of the hill, the highest point of the mountain, and turn that into our museum up there. The large block building you see in the middle was the operations building. All the radar operators sat, all the computer equipment was. It's not a real practical building for a lot of stuff for reuse, so we're going to turn that into the museum. We've started collecting a lot of artifacts from up here. Most of it's been stolen or gone at this point, so we're reaching out to anyone who served up here, any locals that might have gathered stuff, watching eBay for stuff that comes up. So that's the big historical side of this. We want to preserve that, but we also want to kind of open up the site to the public as well. We have 100 acres, 40 of it is just completely empty forest in the back 40 of the property. So we'd like to do some camping up there. It's a really good rustic campsite. We camped up there most of the time we're working up there at this point, so we can attest to how quiet it gets there at night. We also have the 36 houses that we mentioned. We'd like to fix those up, be able to rent those out to people, either short-term for tourist vacationing up there or seasonal workers. There's a huge demand for housing up there at the moment. We also have the 4 barracks buildings, fix those up. Once you have people staying up there, we also now have demand for maybe a store on the property or a restaurant in the old dining hall. We have the recreational facilities up there for people who come up. So I think the phrase we've been throwing around is a historical resort is kind of how we were looking at this. We want to preserve the history, but we still want people to be able to come and actually enjoy it too. And at the same time, we're really keeping in mind the dark skies aspect of this, and we want to preserve this as a really good night sky viewing site. We've had a couple events up there already. We had a group from the Gratiot Lake Conservancy group, so at the lake right down the hill from us. They came up there and did a stargazing party during the first meteor shower, right? Yes. And it didn't work out so well because the clouds rolled in that night and didn't clear until basically the end of their event. They were going to have a few people got some good views and good pictures at the end of the night. But that's stuff like that is kind of what we want to get the local community groups involved, bring them up there. If someone has a use for the site, they have some sort of event they want to host, we'd be happy to have them up there. We're just trying to get as much involvement in this as we can with whoever is interested at this point. Anything else? Yes, since a lot of us have been at Michigan Tech, we've kind of reached out to them, a couple different groups from Tech, and there's interest, but not immediate interest. They've sent groups up there. We've had a couple of fraternities come up and help us with the cleanup and stuff. They have the enterprise groups on Tech, on campus at Tech, which are like small business groups basically that run. We reached out to them, see if they had any interest in doing even clean energy stuff or anything up there. And again, there's interest, but down the road, maybe next semester we'll talk about it, or next year we'll talk about it. So I think we kind of need to get someone to take that leap first, and a bunch of others will follow. Is kind of the hope at this point. The one at Mount Bohemian, or the Calumet Mountain Lodge. We've just started reaching out to them this year, or they reached out to us actually. We weren't sure if they were going to view us as competition to them or what. So we've reached out to them. They've come up, I think, for one of the tours, I believe. And they're really great guys. They're really friendly and happy to talk with us. So
you guys are so close. dark side.
They-
Coast side. or
Yes.
something. They're both along the same region.
Yeah, because from what we've heard, at least, we haven't even gone down the path of getting it recognized as one yet, but we've heard it's quite a lengthy process to get recognized. So that would be amazing if we could work with them instead of trying to start it from scratch again on our site.
So not having important lights probably is in your favor.
Yes, yeah,
So any light you put in.
we
bear
could,
that in
up to
mind.
their spec, yes. So,
But, I think that would probably be something along the lines of my work.
yes, so we need to reach out to them some more. Yes, I think that's a really good idea, because I like that approach instead of, starting all over. So, yep, that's something we need to talk to them more about that. But like I said, I think it was just this winter, is they reached out to us and they were really interested. They wanted to come snowshoeing up there when we did have a little bit of snow. So.
Now, do they have the same fog issue? They're at a lower.
They are much lower than us, yeah. So I would assume they would get fogged in before we would up here. And they're kind of in the forest even. I mean, they have their clearing out on their golf course there, but a lot of their cabins and stuff are back in the trees a ways. So,
I think you actually like the dark.
man, fingers crossed. I really hope that's the case. I think you might be right, because they are right next to Copper Harbor, which despite being a tiny, tiny town, they still have the typical street light problem and all of that. Even though it's a little bit, we got nothing. The cooler part about ours is how high it is. You can see a lot more closer. You can see the horizon. Yes. Which is perfect for like northern lights and that kind of stuff. Yes,
And
telescopes,
we
yeah.
are completely on board with that, getting telescopes up there.
You build your radar.
We've thought about it. We're really torn because we like the historical part of that, but that platform is kind of like our viewing platform now. So we don't necessarily want to give that up.
It's a tough choice.
It is, yeah.
You can't see it in this picture. Let me see. It's a 50-foot diameter, I believe. And so the dome would have been 50 foot at the bottom and slightly larger. I thought we had a good picture of, nope, I guess not. There's another platform you can kind of see down here. This was the foundation of another tower that was there, and they took the entire tower down and the dome and everything. But that would also be a nice spot out there. You kind of lose the view to the north, but you have a really good view to the south and east out over the lake that way. So we're looking, just for reference, we're looking to the east in this picture right here. So I grew up down tiny little town on the west coast of Michigan, Nunica, out by between Grand Rapids and Muskegon area. But I went to Michigan Tech for 4 years. So I was one of the people that kind of learned about that and may have gone trespassing up there a few times. And then Zach, 3 of your siblings all went up there? Two of your siblings all went up there. Let's see, who else? Justin, who's here with us, he went up to Tech with us as well. There's, like I said, about half of the owners up there went to Michigan Tech, so. But there are 13 of us that are in on this together, and all of us knew each other for the most part before this, friends, family. My parents are in on it with me, Zach's parents are in on it too, so. We all knew each other pretty well before this. We felt comfortable going in on this and throwing all of our money in a hat and saying, let's do it. No, yes, it is a drive. As Zach mentioned, I'm the only one that doesn't live in Michigan. I live out in Nebraska, actually, but it's a 12-hour drive and I have no problem making that drive back and forth. I really enjoy it. We do have one guy from our group, Ian, who lives up in the area. So he's the one that keeps an eye on the place. If there are people want to do tours in the summer, he's our tour guide for that. He's up there working most of the time. He'll go up, chase the trespassers off if we catch him or anything. So the rest of us are hoping to move up there sooner rather than later.
I give it a couple of years for myself.
Yeah, that's my goal at least as well too. Once we can fix up some spots on the property, I would love to move up there. It's fascinating. We could talk for hours about this. I know we're probably getting on the end of our time limit here as it is, so.
I will say, all of you are welcome anytime to go up there. Like Kyle said, we've got somebody up there in the area and we give tours to people all the time. If you ever want to go up there and do any kind of astronomy, anything, you want to bring a telescope up, you want to do some photo shoots, we are 100% open to anything like that. We do have a professor at U of M that's got some permanent equipment up there right now, mostly for climate monitoring and that kind of stuff. But we do have We do have Starlink up there, so we do have internet and we do have power to a handful of buildings. So very much open to any kind of equipment, cameras, projects, anything like that.
Sure.
That'd be sweet. There's some old growth forest up there.
Well, old as in mining era when they cleared
Yeah,
out everything.
I guess, yeah. Sweet. Well, I think, yeah, does anybody else have any questions? See if we got through everything here.
Yes.
Yeah, we're still not sure if it's going to, I mean, we're very confident that it's gonna pan out, but it's, we figure it's gonna be a few years of struggling to do this and struggling to do that, but it's been so much fun. Turn the lights on here. Thank you very much. Grab my water here. Thank you.
Yeah, the additional land that is not owned by them is owned by a friend of mine who bought it and is working on that site. He's got all of these radar towers around his site. So that pretty much ends our meeting tonight. Our next meeting will be at Macomb Community College, Thursday, March 21st. Our next open house and star party is Saturday, March 23rd at Stargate Observatory. Several of us meet at the Redcoat Tavern after this, which is Woodward north of 13 Mile. So, and with that, the meeting is over. Good night, everyone. Clear skies. Right.